Welcome to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fawcett. Each week we interview experts in AI, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. In our show today, we look at moving beyond generative AI and a focus on productivity to focusing on profit optimization. I'm joined today by Dr. Michael Wu, Chief AI Strategist at Pros. Welcome, Michael.
Hey, Michael. Very nice to be here.
Great that you could join me today. I know it's nice and early for you. So could you tell me a little bit about yourself and just tell us, about your role at Pros and how you got there, I guess.
Well, that's a long story, depending on how far you want to go. I am I'm the Chief AI Strategist at Pros right now. And basically, before that, I was, the chief scientist at a social media company called Lithium. Mm-hmm. And before that, I was, actually doing my PhD in modeling the human brain, actually using machine learning and all the technique that we use to train our AI models. Nowadays, we use it to train models to mimic how the human visual cortex work, and that's in essence my PhD thesis. I think I don't want to go into this too much. I'm not big with intro.
No, that's great. That's very good. I think I've known you for a long time from Lithium and forward. So it's a good. It'll be a fun conversation, and so much has happened with AI over the last year that it's an exciting topic, and I know a lot of business people really are interested in it. So I thought maybe we could just start by giving us more of a general overview of AI and kind of how it's evolved over the last few years. I mean, I know the history goes back 50 years, so we probably don't need to go back to the 50s, but just to give people the right context.
Yeah, I think obviously last year, the generative AI is blowing up. This is with the advent of ChatGPT. I think this is more of a public awareness phenomenon. Because for me, these large language model, language model, it's actually been researched for a long time. I would say a good, 20 plus year, and the large language models simply they just scale it up. Like these transformer architecture, they basically just scale up and they actually train it with a lot more data. And obviously they need a lot more data because when you scale it up, you have a lot more free parameters in the model, and to fix the value of those free parameter, you need to train it with a lot more data. So that's obviously one big kind of I would say difference, but I think that's like I said, this is more of a difference for people who are not doing research in this area. But for me, I feel like this is more of a progression, Yeah.
I mean, it definitely has democratized the knowledge of and the use of, just by the fact that it is available and people are using it and they get a better feel for kind of what's happening. But I know, obviously this is just, as you say, an evolutionary point. I mean, there's a lot of excitement around generative AI, though. So I'm just curious, like, how do you see generative AI and how is it able to provide value to businesses? How do you see your clients using it?
Yeah, I think the biggest value driver for generative AI is productivity, obviously. I think that, you could do things that you normally do, whether it's writing or, doing some graphic design or something, right? Instead of actually doing it and producing the content, right? Producing the email, the blog, and the kind of a design draft. You could just describe it, and then it will actually generate, these for you, right? And if you don't like it, you could generate 10 or 50 or 100, and you could choose from that and until you're happy with it. So obviously that saves tremendous amount of time, right? And that's where the value comes in, for business. Is that you can do this same type of work, the same thing, essentially with these generative AI a lot faster, and and you can actually iterate through a lot more ideas, because previously you have to kind of, if I'm thinking of a design or something, then I have to create a design, and that will take time, right? So I can't test like hundreds and thousands of them.
Right.
And now literally you can actually go through like thousands or designs and actually pick the one that's most effective, that works the best. So that's where a lot of value come from.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, for me, as a writer and a researcher, one of the things that's always been hard is the blank page, where like you get there and you want to talk about something, but just having a place to start, that's a huge, huge accelerator for me, just being able to ask the questions, get something that's kind of basic, and then take that and go, and run with it. So I do feel like it has, increased productivity for me quite a bit. And I hear that from other people. So.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I wanted to maybe go back to a point that you mentioned earlier, that how this democratizes this AI for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
I think have you ever wondered like why that is the case? Why generative AI is able to do this, whereas some of the more traditional AI, are not so, right? And the reason is because these type of generative AI, they are what we call pre-trained models. The model is already trained. They train with like, the entire corpus of text that a human ever written that's digitized, right? So the entire web, the entire Wikipedia. So they're already trained, right? So you don't need to kind of train it again, right? Or for you may need to train it again to make it specialized in your domain area. But then that's usually, even without retraining it, you could actually perform pretty well. You can actually, because it has it's trained with the entire Wikipedia, so it has, I would say, some pretty generic knowledge about a lot of stuff. So no matter what field you're in, it actually have a lot of quite a substantial body of knowledge actually encoded in the parameter already, right? So whereas the traditional type of AI, which I'm going to refer to them as analytic AI, because they are typically involve the analysis of some data, right? And that requires training, right? So there's a lot of things that need to be done, right? You need to get the data, you need to train the model, you need to make sure the model don't overfit. You do a lot of things that the data scientists need to do to ensure the model actually works before you can even actually use it, right? So I think that's why this generative AI, it's kind of such a, I would say, so easy for people to just grab and test it, because they're already trained, they're pre-trained, right? So GPT, ChatGPT, the GPT, the P in there means pre-trained, right? Generative pre-trained transformer, right? So it's actually a pre-trained model. And likewise for many of these image generating generative AI as well. They're all pre-trained with a large amount of data, such that you don't actually need to train it anymore for it to do decently well.
I mean, to me, it seems like, what you just described, obviously traditional AI, I mean, that's not something I would generally have been a part of on the back end. I might have been a benefactor of it in business. And certainly I was, at G2, we had a lot of algorithms we trained, and I didn't do that part, but I did certainly make use of it. And I think the other thing too is, I'm able to interact with ChatGPT and Perplexity, all the different types of tools in a natural way, which is different than what you described as a data scientist who's going to go and do things in the back end versus the front end. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. So obviously, when businesses invest in technology, productivity is great, but they're also looking to increase revenue or increase profits. So, in that context, is generative AI a help there, or should executives be thinking more around traditional or analytic AI, as you called it?
Yeah, I think generative AI can help, but it's very indirect. So it's it can help you, improve revenue, or, by basically freeing up your people's time, right? Such that they could do more revenue generating activity, so that's, how it can, right, improve revenue, improve profitability that way, right? But it's indirect, right? So the
Sure.
main driver, the main mechanism for ROI of these generative AI is through efficiency, right? So you get productivity gain, efficiency gain, so that
Sure.
people could do more with less, right? And that's actually and what, since they could do more with less, they probably end up with like excess resources, excess time, right?
Right.
And you could use that to, I don't know, to sell more sell more stuff, or do things that for your business that actually
Yep.
drive more profitability and revenue, right? So
Sure.
you can help indirectly. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, so that's and I mean, obviously that makes sense to me. The idea that, if I can free up a salesperson's time from doing administrative things, they can sell more. If marketing can do more marketing, that's better generally anyway. But when we talk about, like, optimizing profits or increasing revenue, talk a bit about the traditional AI, or analytic AI, as you call it.
Yeah.
How is that applied? And also, I'm just curious, like, does automation play a role in that too? Because I know that's obviously another area we haven't really talked about.
Sure. I think, there are actually a lot of you know um, AI, more the analytic AI that is designed specifically to optimize revenue,
Mm,
right? So these are, basically, I would say, like, price optimization algorithms,
sure.
revenue management algorithms. So they are algorithms that are specifically designed to optimize either profit or revenue, right? So or even or margin, if you want, if
Right.
that's what you care about more, right? So depending on what industry you are, some care more about revenue, some, if you're like in an airline, right, where
Mm,
the cost is already synced, right? You already bought the plane, you already had and so you care about revenue, right? But yeah, so you can actually optimize the profitability of your business, right, directly. So this is no more indirect, right? Basically, I
right.
am directly optimizing the. So these are, so what are some of the lever, like that business can pull to optimize the profitability of your business, right? And I think one of the, there's actually many things that affects profitability, right? A lot
Sure.
of those are very indirect, right? For example, I mean, you may think that a sales people, sales efficiency, sales efficacy is very directly related to profitability, and that's certainly true, right? I mean, if you have a more efficient, more effective sales team,
Mm,
you're gonna get more profitability and more revenue that way, right? Uh, and you could say that, marketing does, help that as well, right? I
right.
mean,
Right.
but again, like, you can always kind of go a step kind of further removed, right? Marketing is one step removed from sales, right? You can
Right.
even build better product. Certainly, building better product, that the
Mhm.
customer love, right? It's gonna drive more profitability as well, right? But that's one more step removed from marketing, right? So these
Sure.
are further upstream processes. So the impact to revenue, to profitability, it end up to be kind of hard to quantify, and actually,
Mm,
become a very very small, right? Very
sure.
because they're so far, this trickle down effect, right? And it's so far upstream, right? But there's one driver that a lot of people often don't think about, that has a very very direct impact on revenue and profitability, and that's pricing, right?
Mm,
Because that's actually, not upstream from, but
right.
downstream from sales. Like before the sales can even sell anything, you have to have a price, right? Because
Right.
to sell anything, you have to have a price. You're going to sell me something, right? You better tell me what price it is. Otherwise, I'm not going to, there's no way you can sell anything, right? So that has very, very direct impact on revenue and profitability. So basically, to maximize revenue and profitability, you just have to optimize this price, right? And it's
Right.
not always that you sell for higher price, then it's better, right? Because you could easily kind of imagine a situation, if you increase the price too much, then you lose customer,
Right.
and therefore your total revenue and profitability actually goes down, right? But if you actually lower the price too much, then you're actually leaving money on the table, and you don't you lose on profitability as well, right? So how do you find that optimal point, right? That's why it's called revenue price optimization. That price need to be optimized, right, for revenue maximization or profit maximization, right? So yeah, so these are the type of algorithms that are specifically designed to optimize profitability.
Sure. And what kind of data do you need to apply that? And I mean, obviously that varies by industry, but maybe just take airlines a good example, right? Because we all know that prices are hard to understand and they change a lot. How what kind of data do they use to actually drive that and get the algorithms to produce an effective price?
Yeah, actually, surprisingly, you don't need a lot to start. Like obviously, the more data, the better, right? I mean,
Sure.
so traditionally, airline, they have historical, booking, and
Sure.
they have like the price on that. They have the availability, how many seats you have left, and all that stuff. So that's I would say airlines actually a very unique business in the sense that they actually are regulated, so they have to publish all their fares, right? So the dynamic pricing of those seats for airline, is how can you dynamically price anything if you have to publish all the fares in advance, right? Basically, they just dynamically open and close the classes, right? So that's what happened. So anyway, that's but if for most business, I would say that what you needed is simply historical transaction, and all the attribute around that transaction, and also the customer and the attributes of the customer and the product, right? Basically, that's the three components that actually comprises the actual transaction. You need a customer who buys a product, right? And then the transaction that link them together, right? But then having the customer, just telling the name of a customer and name of a product usually is not enough. You need some attributes in life. So this customer is a large customer in Europe or in the US, and what type of customer, what industry they're in, how many employees they have, what's their revenue. So all these attributes of a customer, and then the product, right? What's this product? What is this product for? What is it made of? And all this. So you could tell that these type of product typically sell to these type of customer. How much do they typically pay for, and how can you optimize that? What they traditionally pay for may not be optimal, right? So
Right.
knowing that what they are traditionally willing to pay is just a start, right? After you know what they traditionally willing to pay, then you need to slowly kind of I would say nudge that price toward the optimal, whether it's up or down. Maybe traditionally you charge too much, right? You need to go down a little bit, right? And actually gain more volume and customer that way, right? Maybe you charge too little, right? You need to increase it, right? So you need to optimize it that way. So
yeah. So it does sound like there's a lot of automation involved in this. Then, so you're collecting data, you're making some offer or some pricing decisions, but that's not all human intervention when it comes to that, right? I mean, there's a lot of automation that's in use. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't think a human can do this. They're not fast enough. I mean, I think traditionally, a pricer, could look at some data stream coming in, and then they will have to price for every single product for every single customer, right? And that's actually, think about this. If you have just say 1,000 product that you want to sell, which is actually not that far-fetched. Many business have thousands of, and you probably have thousands of customers. You already have combination of a million price combination, right? And that's actually every product for every customer. You have to have the price, right? Because otherwise, even if a particular customer never bought this product before, and they probably will never buy it, right? You still need to have it just in case they may want to buy it. This particular customer may one day buy this product, right? Which you never know. And this is actually, so you have to price it. So you have to have all these price customer combination, right? And that's actually a lot that you need to price, to analyze, to optimize, right? For analysts, right? So so now you can actually do this through these type of pricing AI, AI based pricing. That is which is actually a class, one type of analytic AI, right? And more traditional AI, not the non-generative AI, that actually help you automate a lot of these calculation and optimization.
Sure. Yeah. So we talk about generative AI and we talk about analytic AI or traditional AI. So how do those work together in this scenario? I mean, is there a role for generative AI in this optimization as well?
Not in the direct role of optimization, right? But I mean, the optimization is actually done with another the analytic AI, the AI pricing algorithm that I mentioned.
Sure.
But it doesn't mean that they can't work together with them, right? I mean, you could think of it, the best way to think of it is that, these generative AI, you could think of them as almost like a conversational user interface, right? So you can ask a question to this generative AI, right? And then the generative AI actually, even if it doesn't know it, it can actually go call another algorithm to get the answer, right? Sure. Just as, Google search or Bing search, they, if you actually ask it something that this generative AI doesn't know, like say something that just happened right now, right? It just happened a couple minutes ago, right? If you ask it, if you actually go into your ChatGPT and ask it, you probably won't know. Most likely you would say like, I don't know what happened. My training stopped at a certain time in April, 2023, and I don't know anything happened after that, right? And then, but it doesn't have to answer that question for you directly, right? You can actually call another algorithm, the plain old search algorithm that's provided by Bing or Google, right? Sure. And then go search the web and see what happened, right? And then get those documents, those results, pages back, and then give it to a generative AI, and the generative AI can simply act as a summarization engine, sure. Right? Yeah. So that's, you could think of it. So this is actually how this generative AI seems so smart, but it's really just a conversational user interface that that connects the user to a lot of, I would say, very complex algorithm behind it that's doing the heavy lifting, right? The plain old search and the plain old Bing or Google is actually doing the heavy lifting of searching for the right documents, and it's simply giving it to this generative AI to have it summarize and present the result back in a very friendly, understandable way, concise way, right? So similarly, right? I mean, if you ask a generative AI, right, what's the price? How should I price this product for this particular customer, right? This, it's not going to know. It will know something general, right? If these products generally sell for this price, maybe like, but this particular product for this particular customer, right, at this particular time, right? That specificity, right, is something that the generative AI will not have, right? Sure. They simply cannot give you the answer, right? Yep. But again, you could do similar thing, just like we did with this retrieval augmented generation with Google and Bing, right, where it actually calls search to get the results back, right? But instead of calling the search, you are calling these AI pricing algorithms, such as those that pros produce, right? And then actually get the optimal price back for this particular customer, this particular product at this particular time, at this particular context, right? Even because with all that transaction attributes, right? You could even get it for this particular context, right? Maybe if you buy online, versus if you call someone, is a different price, right? So for this particular context, you would actually it's best to actually sell them at this particular price,
Sure.
right? So
So,
yeah,
so that's like a virtual assistant sort of approach, like I would have a pricing assistant, and I could just ask for the price. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So basically, the generative AI essentially can work with these, pricing optimization type
Hmm.
of AI, right? As as essentially it's one of the toolbox that you can call, right?
Sure.
When you involve very specific pricing optimization question that it doesn't know, then you should just call this type of AI, and you could use it as a plugin or something like that, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. So, so when companies are doing this, when they're setting up this type of optimization system, what are some of the challenges that you've seen them deal with, and also what are the limitations of those types of systems for the business?
yeah, I think a lot of companies, especially traditional company, they're not very good at keeping their data clean and available,
Yeah,
right? So yeah, so I think first, obviously, so again, like the unlike generative AI, which is pre-trained, right?
right.
These analytic AI requires training. So what that means that it requires data to train them. So it's just that the
Mhm.
pricing is specific to you, the product that you offer and your customer, right? So
Right.
another company for that similar product for a similar customer may be a completely different
Mhm.
thing, right? But
Yep.
for you, you price them very differently from very specifically. So it need to be trained, right? So
Mhm.
as a result, it needs those data, right? So getting all those data together, sometimes it could be challenging for some
Yeah.
companies. But I think companies are getting better and better at doing this, and we even built tools, to help company kind of actually, if you just give us the invoice, we can actually extract all the data points that we needed, and then
Mhm.
so these are tools that we have built to help alleviate this problem of having the companies. It's your data, so you come up with all the data, right? We just help you optimize the price, and that's it, right? We even help them get some of the data if they have some other forms of data that they have. I mean, you have obviously for business, for auditing, you have to have
Sure.
invoice and everything, right? So you have to have that, right? So that's something that we taking something that everybody have, and you can actually extract the customer
Mhm.
and their attribute, the product and the attribute,
Mhm.
and the transaction attribute as well, right? So
Yeah, I mean that's obviously a problem that we've looked at in a lot of different contexts around customer data, for example, and that's been a challenge for businesses for a long time. Although with things like customer data platforms and that sort of thing, it is getting better. So I would assume that's a big improvement for use in those types of situations, having a nice, more organized, clean data set for the customer at least. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they would just have faster, you know, time to value basically. And if you have
Mm,
all the data ready, then we just train it, and then the model is
mm,
ready to go, and you deploy it, and then you realize value right away, right? So
sure.
if we have to clean, then it just takes longer, right? So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. So we talked about a lot of different pieces here, and I'd love to just to make this a bit more real. Do you have some examples of where you've done this in a business, and kind of how this was implemented and how it's working for them?
Well, I mean, there's actually a lot. I mean, that's the business of pros. I mean, basically, we
Right.
have many customer coming to us reporting, you know, basically several percentage improvement in terms of their revenue lift, or margin improvement, right? So all these are um, very tangible gain. I mean, few percent, revenue lift may be
Yeah.
small, but it's actually huge, right? I mean, if you think about like this, many marketing efforts, right? If you get like, I don't know, 80% conversion or something like that, that's great, but it still may not move the needle at all, right? So we are actually
Right.
moved because, like I said, because these are many of these efforts, right? So sales, marketing and even product innovation, right? So these are further kind of upstream, right? They don't have a direct impact on revenue, right? You may do a lot, but then you still move the needle a very tiny bit, right? It's very hard to move that needle, right? But pricing actually is have a direct impact on revenue and profitability, right? So you can actually move the needle, even though it's very, only a few percentage, but that's actually huge. That's actually more effective than, sometimes like I don't know, 80% marketing conversion rate or something, whatever. Something sounds really amazing, but when it comes to actual revenue that is driving, it's actually not moving the needle that much, But here, because pricing has such a direct impact on profitability, a few percentages, that's actually very, very significant, right? So, and we actually, did a study, a ROI analysis of all of the customer who have self-reported their ROI to us. Basically we didn't do build any model or anything. These are just our customer coming to us and telling us, hey, you're using your software, we realize, some ROI, like whether it's revenue lift or margin improvement, right? So we collected all this data together from, we have 130 customer who actually, we did not even ask them, or anything, solicit them. So they told us that, So basically we collected these data together and basically summarize it. And on average, people could realize on about 3% revenue improvement, right? And as much as 20%, which is like huge, right? I mean, just like and margin improvement, can be as much as 5%. So these are like very, very significant numbers, right?
Yeah, and that's very significant.
Yeah, very significant. And I think the other, I would say, because it involves such a I should mention before automation as well, right? Because pricing, you no longer have, I mean, humans are in the loop, but then they're no longer doing the bulk of the work, right? The AI is actually doing the heavy lifting. They may want to make sure this price is not ridiculous or something before it actually goes out, but as a kind of checking validation stage. But these are, I would say, rather small amount of, they're not that big of, not a lot of work, So they also realize a lot of efficiency gain as well. And a lot of our customer, also came to us, self-reported, huge efficiency gain, right? Some actually, on average, these efficiency gain can be, about 70% efficiency gain, right? And as much as like, 95, 96% efficiency gain, which is like huge, right? Wow. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's that's significant, and I mean it does make a lot of sense to me too. That you can certainly increase marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads, but if the pricing's all messed up, you never go beyond the sales qualified lead to an actual deal. Then that has no impact whatsoever on your business, or very little. Yeah,
exactly.
So that's logical. Well, Michael, that's actually all the time we have today. Although I could definitely keep going. I really appreciate you joining me today. The one thing that I always ask guests before they leave, though, is, could you recommend someone, like a thought leader, an author, or some other mentor that's influenced your career that you think would be beneficial for the audience?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I mean, I would say like Yann LeCun. He is, the recipient of the Turing Award. Right. Which is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for computer science, right? And because there's no computer science Nobel Prize, right? So the Turing Award is essentially viewed as that, and I think he's actually had a big impact on me. Actually, in my graduate study as well, I started reading his paper when I was a graduate student, and he is actually the pioneer who essentially invented deep neural network, which is powers all the ChatGPT, all the generative AI, pretty much in every type of AI today, right? Deep neural network is a tool that is indispensable. It's something that everybody uses, right? And he's the um, essentially the founding kind of pioneer who developed that, right? Despite the fact that a lot of the back in those days, the scientific community, the mathematician and statistician community actually didn't quite believe that this is going to work, and
Right.
there, yeah, but he and a few and two other, right? So Jan LeCun, Jeffrey Hinton, and Yosha Bengio. So those are the three Turing Award recipients of 2018 for inventing and developing the deep neural network, right? So that's yeah. Those are the people that, for me, I would recommend. But yeah,
No, great recommendation. Thanks. I really appreciate it. And again, thank you so much for joining today. Very informative, and I know the audience really going to appreciate the insights that you shared. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And for more on AI and other software research reports and posts, check out the arionresearch.com/blog and /research reports. And don't forget to join us next week. I'm Michael Fawcett, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.